Charles Leclerc just had his race taken away from him, not on the track, not by a faster car, not by a tire failure or a safety car or a pit stop that cost him 3 seconds he could not recover, by the stewards, by a 20-second time penalty issued after the race had finished, the positions had been celebrated, and the champagne had already been opened in the Ferrari garage. 20 seconds. In Formula One terms, that is not a penalty, that is an execution. A post-race time penalty of that magnitude does not drop you 1 position. It does not cost you a podium. It obliterates whatever result you worked 70 laps at the Miami International Autodrome to build, and it does it in the most brutal way the sport has available, after the fact. After the driver is already out of the car, already in the cool-down room, already believing that what happened on the track is what the record books are going to show. The Ferrari garage went from celebration to devastation in the space of a steward's decision, and the reaction from Leclerc, from Ferrari, and from the broader paddock has been loud enough and specific enough that this is not a story being filed away quietly before the next race weekend. Today, we are breaking down exactly what happened at Miami that produced a 20-second penalty on Charles Leclerc, what the incident was, what the stewards found, why 20 seconds and not a different number, why Ferrari are contesting it, and why this decision lands at the worst possible moment for a driver whose 2026 season has been defined by being close to something significant without quite getting there. Subscribe to F1 Race Report right now. Let's go. Let us establish the facts before we get into the penalty itself, because the steward's decision exists downstream of a specific on-track moment, and understanding that moment is essential for evaluating whether the penalty was proportionate, correct, or the kind of decision that makes reasonable people question whether the right call was made. The incident occurred in the closing stages of the Miami Grand Prix. Leclerc was fighting for a position that mattered enormously to his championship points tally and to Ferrari's constructors' standing. The battle had been going across multiple laps with the intensity that Miami's combination of high-speed sections and technical chicanes produces in a way few other venues on the current calendar can match. The contact that triggered the investigation was marginal. That word gets used as a euphemism sometimes, applied to incidents that were clearly one thing or another, and where marginal means the person using it does not want to commit to a judgment. In this case, marginal is the accurate description. The telemetry, the camera angles, and the position data the stewards worked with produced a picture that reasonable and experienced people reviewing the same material have assessed differently. That is not a defense of what Leclerc did or did not do. It is a description of the evidentiary situation. What the stewards found was that Leclerc gained a lasting advantage through the contact and the trajectory that followed. The gaining a lasting advantage determination is one of the most consequential and most contested calls in the steward's toolkit. It requires not just that something happened, but that it produced a benefit persisting through the remainder of the race in a way the natural flow of competition would not have delivered without the incident. The stewards came down on the side that said yes, the advantage was lasting, it was meaningful, and 20 seconds was the appropriate response. Here's the part of this penalty generating the most reaction and deserving the most careful examination. 20 seconds is not a standard Formula One penalty number. The steward's toolkit includes 5-second penalties, 10-second penalties, drive-through penalties converted to time, and stop-go penalties converted to time. 20 seconds sits at a specific point in that framework. It is the converted equivalent of a stop-go penalty applied after the race, reserved for incidents serious enough to warrant the most significant time sanction available without triggering a disqualification. The question being asked loudly by Ferrari and by paddock voices who reviewed the same material is this: was what happened at Miami a stop-go level incident? Because the gap between a 10-second and 20-second penalty in post-race application is not a technical difference, it's a categorical one. A 10-second penalty in the context of where Leclerc finished might have cost him 1 position. 20 seconds cost him the result entirely. The stewards were not calibrating the degree of disadvantage. They were making a binary choice between 2 categories, and the category they chose had consequences far beyond anything a proportionate assessment of the incident's severity would suggest. Ferrari's sporting director has been vocal. Their official response is not limited to disappointment. It is a structured argument that the stewards applied the wrong penalty category to an incident, that even accepting their finding that an advantage was gained did not rise to the seriousness a stop-go equivalent requires. That is a coherent sporting argument. It may not succeed, but it is not a grievance dressed up as a legal position. Leclerc arrived in Miami in a 2026 season that has been simultaneously promising and frustrating. Ferrari Ferrari have shown genuine pace at multiple circuits. Leclerc has delivered qualifying performances confirming his talent is as sharp as ever, but race results have not consistently reflected the qualifying position. Podiums became fourths, fourths became sixths. The gap between what the car was capable of and what the results showed was explained by safety cars, strategy calls, and the unpredictability the 2026 power unit regulations have introduced into race management. Miami looked like the moment where those gaps finally closed. The result Leclerc had worked toward across the opening phase of the season appeared to have arrived. The Ferrari garage was celebrating not just a result, but a signal that the car, the driver, and the weekend had come together the way a championship campaign eventually requires. Then the stewards issued their decision. What felt like a turning point became another entry in a season defined for Leclerc by the space between what should have happened and what actually did. Ferrari have signaled they are contesting the penalty. Let us be precise about what that means, because the word contesting implies more optionality than actually exists in the FIA's post-race penalty framework. The right of review process requires a team to present significant and relevant new evidence that was not available to the stewards at the time of the original decision. This is a deliberately high threshold. It is not a conventional appeal. It is not an opportunity to argue the stewards reached the wrong conclusion from the evidence they had. It is an opportunity to present material that would have changed the evidentiary picture. Finding that material and assessing whether it meets the threshold is what Ferrari's legal and sporting teams are working through right now. The broader conversation this penalty has opened about whether the stewards applied the right penalty category, about the consistency of lasting advantage determinations across the season, about whether post-race penalties of this magnitude serve competitive integrity or damage it, goes beyond Ferrari's specific situation. It's a conversation the FIA needs to be part of openly, rather than leaving to teams and commentators to conduct around the edges of the governance structure. Miami was supposed to be a sprint weekend that answered some of the questions the 2026 season has been asking. For Leclerc, it answered one in the worst possible way. The question of whether the stewards and the penalty framework are correctly calibrated for this era of F1 is now sitting at the top of the agenda heading into the next race. Drop your take in the comments. Do you think the 20-second penalty on Leclerc was proportionate to what happened on track at Miami? And does Ferrari have a realistic case for a right of review? Subscribe to F1 Race Report for this conversation every single week. Like the video, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you at the next race.